Well, hello again, my friends, and welcome back to the Dental Marketing Secrets Podcast. And we are on episode number 96 today. My name is Mark Thackeray, and I'm excited to have you join me for this episode. We have Lorie Streeter, who is the Vice President of US Expansion for MaxAssist. She was the former Vice President at ADOM, and she is joining us to talk about how to reclaim back more time in your practice. And hopefully that time will be spent marketing and doing other marketing related things. It's my hope. But let's talk with Lorie. Let's get into this interview. It is awesome. She has some really, really good tips. I wrote down a ton of notes, as you can see here, and you're going to love this one. So without further ado, let's jump into it with Lorie Streeter. All right, you guys, welcome back. I have Lorie Streeter back on the podcast. We were just joking that before we pressed record that this is our third time on the show, which is awesome because she's just in such high demand and she just has so much good content. So I'm super excited to have you back, Lorie. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Mark. I'm happy to be back. We are almost at a four-part series. So if
Yeah,
we would have caught ahead of time, we could have
I
done
know.
that. But here we
I
are,
know.
number three.
Yeah,
Number
stay tuned
three.
for number 4 in the future. You've
That's
heard it here
right.
first.
I love that.
Yeah. So Lorie, tell us a little bit about your background. So I'll just say this, but you were the former vice president of ADOM. Now you are in the vice president of the expansion in the United States for MaxAssist, which we'll get into in a little bit. So give us a little,
Yeah.
you have so much experience, and that's why I always love having you on the show. But give us, yeah, take a few minutes and describe your background and your professional experience for us.
Thank you. I'll try. Maybe the elevator version, but so I've been in dentistry and that was by accident for gosh, going on 30 years. And you both and I both know I started when I was two. I always let people know that so
Yep.
they're sure not to wonder. But the truth of the matter is I was singing in a bar and a dentist came in and sat down and said, "What do you do for a living?" I'm like, "I work for an ophthalmologist practice." And he's like, "How about teeth?" And I
Yeah.
keep telling everybody when I get to my job in podiatry, I'll know I'm done because I worked
Yeah.
my way all the way down the body. But,
I
you know,
know.
dentistry has always had my heart. I've done a little bit of everything, Mark. It's really interesting. I worked in a general practice as an office manager for 12 years. That's where I got my love of the office manager and the experience. I worked for a DSO. Back then it was called Bright Now Dental, now Smile Brands for 5 years. My job was to drive new patients into dental practices. So I learned a lot about organic marketing and how to do that the right way. And then I worked for Patterson for a short stint. That's where I found ADOM for the first time, and then spent the last 17 plus years at ADOM growing from what I think is the best community in dentistry. So
Yeah.
um, this recent change has been not only eye-opening but life-changing, frankly. It's allowed me to launch my own, brand. Lorie Streeter Maxed Out is now where we are. And don't let the name fool you. I maxed out is a good term for those of us that have hit our mark, right? But at the end of the day, we want you maxed into your potential. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And what I love about joining you, and thank you again for having me, is that we get to talk marketing, which is my
Yeah.
heart.
Oh,
So yeah,
the best. Yeah,
it's so it's so hard.
yeah. Well, and that's what's so neat about having you on is you look at the experience that you bring to the table. You're able to see things that other people just can't, whether that's from the doctor's perspective, from the office manager's perspective, from the consumer patient perspective, and I
For
think
sure.
that's what's so valuable about your insight. And so I'm really looking forward to what we're talking about today. And we can kind of get into that now. So, I mean,
Great.
yeah, it's one of the big challenges, and this was something that we mentioned before we pressed record too. It's just the fact that there's so little time. It seems like nowadays we have our attention is split so many different ways, and especially as a practice owner or an office manager, your laundry list of to-do items is ever
Mhm.
growing. I mean, it's
Yeah.
multiple. It's a scroll that just keeps unraveling,
Right.
and that makes it hard to get to marketing. A lot of times marketing ends up at the bottom of that list,
Yeah.
And so I'd love to, yeah, talk a little bit about this in terms of what can we do? We hear a lot from practice owners, from even office managers, from employees. They want to do more marketing. They just don't have the time or they don't think
Right.
they have the time. So
right?
let's, yeah, why don't you just start there and kind of paint the picture a
Love
little
that.
bit, and then let's,
Yeah.
yeah, get into it.
Well, I wrote notes this time. Last two times, I don't think I wrote notes, but I
Well,
wrote
you don't
notes
need
this
them because
time.
you,
I have a
you
lot to say. I have a lot to say. But one of the main things that I wrote down was you don't need more time, you need better tools. And that's one way to look at it. But it's funny because most practices, time really isn't the problem. Prioritization is.
yeah,
So, we're so busy being busy that we're really not looking at ourselves, our systems, our, how we spend our time, the way we treat our patients, everything. I mean, most practices have the time. They're just burning it on low impact tasks, like
yeah,
reclaiming even like 30 minutes a day of your time. You can use it to do all kinds of things. So, that was my first overall when you and I discussed what kind of topic we were going to talk about. For me, I always thought that someone saying we don't have time is kind of a red flag, that
yeah.
other things are going on in the practice. So I don't know if you've experienced that, but that's kind of where my brain led me to start was, do you really not have the time?
Yeah, and I think I love what you said about tools. It's not having the right tools because I've been so I we have a backyard and like a lot of people do, but we're just in the process, the never ending process of fixing it up. I mean, and we've been
Yep.
here for 12, 13 years and we're still in that process.
I get
But
it.
so we moved. We used to have all these bushes, those big Fitzer bushes, and we moved. We took them out. I took them all out, and then I wanted to level out that spot right there so we could extend our lawn and then just have so we have a bigger space for the kids to play soccer on. And I started doing a little bit by hand just because I wanted to see, okay, the
Sure.
soil's really rocky where I am. So you're hitting rocks all
Yep.
the time. But and then one of my friends has said, dude, what are you doing? I mean, just go get a skid steer. I promise you, spend the $400 or whatever and just go get it, And I did. I spent a day doing it. It was amazing. I moved so much dirt. It was crazy. And I had such a blast doing it too. But it comes back to that idea of if you have the right tool, it makes that
Yeah.
job so much easier.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And, being in a new role and having to drink through the fire hose of learning,
Yeah.
it is more evident than it's ever been before that marketing is about patient care.
Mhm.
Because ultimately, if we are not letting the right people know about us, the right patients, all of the things, we're not doing our patients any kind of
Yeah.
satisfactory treatment because there is a patient for every practice,
Yeah.
and we've got to make sure they're able to find us. So a lot of times marketing to me, and maybe you will agree or disagree. I feel like your culture kind of drives your conversion, right? So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if you've got a happy team and everybody's doing their job, and I know things aren't 100% perfect all the time, but if they're genuinely happy and believe in what you're doing and how you do it and think you're a great clinician. Like I worked for two dentists when I was an office manager, and they were both phenomenal clinicians.
Yeah.
I never had trouble referring people to my
Yes.
practice
Hmm.
because I trusted my clinicians so much to take care of my patients. So I think when I say culture drives conversion, if you've got some happy people in your practice, we're your best micro marketers, right?
Yes.
We are the ones
100%.
that are going out in the community to the ball game with our kids, or in my case, it was a track meet. And if somebody's sitting there holding their face, I'm like, "Are you okay? Can I help you?"
Yeah.
Or, any conversation where somebody goes, "Oh, I got to go to the dentist. I'm dreading it." Well, why are you dreading it?
Yeah.
Let's talk about why you're dreading it because you shouldn't if you trust your dentist. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that, a lot of we don't, we lose sight that it doesn't take time for you to build a culture where people just believe in you and will refer you.
Yeah. And that's such an important piece because I see that I've just been looking through a couple of clients that their referral source report essentially for the past year, sometimes 2 years will go back just to see, okay, is it, how many are from patients, how many are from other providers in the area, and just to get an idea. And
Sure.
it's interesting to see the employees as they come up on that list. And there's some that refer a lot and there's some that don't. And
Yeah.
to your point, I think a lot of it stems from can I really trust uh,
Hmm.
our office and this clinician to deliver when I
Yeah,
send someone, when my reputation's on the line and I bring someone in because it's
right.
not the most favorite thing for us to do. And
Yep.
are they going to have a good experience?
Yeah.
And if they're not willing to do that, if they're not willing to share and talk about the office, then you've got some areas of opportunity right there. I mean,
Yeah.
some teaching moments and just to dig down in that. But I couldn't agree more that once you get someone in, it's the culture that converts them long term as a patient and ultimately as someone who becomes, like you said, a mini marketer and ambassador to the practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're really trying to grow that all the time. I was
Mhm.
thinking about like the old-fashioned way that I used to look for new patients. And well, first of all, there's so much opportunity in the practice that's kind of left on the table.
Yeah.
It's hard to see a lot of times practices will like new patients, new patients, new patients. And as marketers, of course we want that, right? We
Yeah.
want people to have new faces and new energy. But I feel like it's more of a balance. Like we have to really look at the opportunity we have in the practice to serve our existing patients,
Mhm.
turn those patients into those raving fans,
Yeah.
and then our marketing becomes that much easier. So the old-fashioned way that I used to do it is I would look through, let's say, EOBs, reports. I mean, I'm talking old-fashioned, and I
Mhm.
would look and say, oh my gosh, we have 65 patients from Kaiser or 65
Yeah.
patients from this place. And I would let my team and doctor know John Smith is coming in today and he works at Kaiser.
Yeah.
And we have so many patients there already. It would be great to ask John Smith, wow, we're seeing a lot of patients from your company. Are you the one talking about that?
Yeah.
What does that look like? My own dentist, Mark, I got like a gift card to one of our grocery stores in the mail, like right after I started because I had referred a couple people. And
Yeah.
I know there's different rules in different states and that kind of thing. So, of course, follow your rules. But I felt so good
Mhm.
that I just referred organically and then I was incentivized and rewarded. So
Yeah.
sometimes even just a thank you note is enough. But we think
Absolutely.
we don't have time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's the what we want to really spend the most time on with this is how do we reclaim back some of that time? Because there are, and I think you hit it too when you're saying that we look at our list and it does feel good to be busy. I mean, you feel productive. You might not be efficient, or effective, but you're efficient. I mean, you're always doing
Yeah.
something and that looks good. It can tend to feel good. But how do you prioritize then those things
Hmm.
that are most important so that you know that you're spending your time on the high value items?
Well, I think one of the things I wrote down, automate the repeatable and delegate the teachable.
Hmm.
And I think that's super important because so many front office people, especially office managers, everybody, in fact, I just heard Laura Nelson talking about this on a TikTok video. I think she was talking about an office manager coming up and basically had the attitude of like, how can I do this? I'm the only person that can do this, and
Yeah.
I'm the only person that can do that. You have to learn to delegate. I
Right.
mean, there are things, if you can't automate it, which, now I've been learning about the word tech sprawl, which is super interesting, and how we're trying to get tech to do everything,
Right.
which you have good tech, it should, but not the human piece. The
Right.
human piece is what kind of office manager are you, or the person that's leading? Maybe it's the dentist, maybe it's the office manager, sometimes it's the hygienist. What does that look like? Are you able to stay in your lane and say, these are the things that are the most important for me to do, and emphasize the areas where you can delegate things off?
Hmm.
Let's say all of a sudden your office manager has delegated or automated 30 minutes to an hour of things that they would have done on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Then they have room for marketing.
Right.
Then they have room to think creatively. I mean, let's face it, I think you and I are both creatives. It's very hard to be in the moment working hard and then think to yourself, I have to ideate right now.
Yeah.
I have to
On
create
command.
something. I have to market, like put that hat on. I mean, think of what you did in your backyard. You took that skid steer and you created more time.
Yeah.
You
Right.
created more time with your family. You created more time to be creative in your backyard because you used a tool.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think those are the two ways that we really can get some of that time back is either to realize that some things should be automated if they're not, and then also using software that doesn't provide more hassle, more headache because of the
Right.
steps. What we're trying to do is free up space, right, to be creative and really work on how we market our practice, which eventually comes down to brand awareness and really honing in on who are your people that you want to talk about you. Like we said,
Yeah.
micro marketers. We're talking about our teams all looking and referring the practice. And then ultimately, what's so funny is I don't think doctors talk enough about themselves.
No.
You know,
Very.
how many
Yeah.
how many have you ever met that say, I'm a really good dentist and I'd love to help you?
Yeah. It's
Even
well,
in videos.
yeah.
Even
No,
in videos, when you see practices that like do a video about their practice,
yeah.
I hear the team talking about the doctor and maybe even a patient giving a testimonial, but the doctor never says, I'm a really good dentist and here's
Mhm.
why I love my patients.
Yeah. Well, and
You know,
I love that you said that because I was talking to my wife about this. Can't remember when it was, 6 months, a year ago, whatever. But because I've had that challenge too, where I'm not one to be like, oh, I am amazing at this. But I met someone at a conference or something like that, or a networking event. I can't remember exactly what the circumstance was, but he introduced himself and he said, and I'm really good at what I do. And it wasn't cocky and he didn't come across as condescending. He was just confident. And I thought that was such a light bulb moment for me. Like
yep,
I knew, okay, I can trust this guy. I mean, at least it seems like it. Like I know he's confident in his abilities. And that
sure.
just made me think about it differently. So I love that point,
Yeah.
Lorie, that the doctor can come out and say that and not come across as arrogant.
Yeah, no, and we don't see that enough. And I think it would make such a difference for patients to hear a dentist. Like you said, you can be confident and not cocky.
Yeah,
And, for those office managers and people who are trying to manage everything, plus are responsible to do a little bit of marketing, busy is not a badge of honor at the end
right.
of the day. We
Yeah,
are all busy. And I think sometimes dentists and teams think if I just put my head down and I keep seeing my patients and I'm busy, they'll know that I'm good. They'll know that the patients were schedules full. Because if you think about it, if I was a dentist, I'm thinking I would equate a full schedule to success,
yes.
right?
Yeah,
But we all know, and so do all the consultants that might be listening, that just because your schedule's full doesn't mean you're efficient.
right.
So that's what I'm learning more and more about as I get into my new role is the efficiency of, there is no real such thing as set it and forget it. There's so many companies out there that say, we have this product, you just do this, you just don't touch it, and then everything's automated. Well, I don't know about you, but one of the things that I obviously learned in my previous role, and I really learned in my new role, is everything still boils down to connection,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
At the end of the day, when we're talking about our subject is freeing up time, it's what do you want time for? For me, I want it with connection. You got hours back you could spend with your family.
right.
Dentists need to get hours back that they can spend maybe in their community or if they're based in a church or whatever that looks like for them. There's no time to have that connection with anyone, even if they're not your patient. Connection always is going to drive success
Right.
because at the end of the day, we've got dentists out there who are going to work and pulling their hair out because let's face it, nobody wants to see the dentist. That's just, I mean, how many times we've probably talked about that at nauseum because nobody wakes up and says, oh, I can't wait to go to the dentist
I
today.
know.
I personally like it, but that's a weird thing. So most people are scared to death or avoid it. There's all those things. So a dentist ultimately has to sit in this place where they say to themselves, I know I'm good at what I do. It's important what I do for people's oral health, their systemic health, all the above.
Yeah.
How can I let my community, my team, everyone around me know that I'm here to serve them?
Hmm.
And I think being busy is what most people think is the right thing to do. And I would lend myself to say that I would rather be less busy and more connected. And then the busy part will come. The
Yeah.
success will come.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's ultimately what we're going after is we want people to feel comfortable and confident when they come in the door, and if they can do that, then it's going to be they're going to stay. I mean,
Mhm.
the clinical side will take care of itself. I don't see very many I don't talk to very many doctors that aren't good clinicians or good enough, I mean, very competent,
Yep.
I think
Yep.
across the board, but it is that in that connection
Yep.
aspect where they spend the time and they share, they're a little vulnerable at times too.
Mhm.
There's I think there's a couple of sides of this too, where you have that confident side. There's also that vulnerability, sharing a few things, personal experiences, things like that, just being unable to relate to them as a human,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
goes so far,
Yeah.
and like you said, I think that's a great place to start. I mean, if you're thinking about marketing, if you're thinking about trying to get more new patients in general, kind of the inside out approach works really well, where let's create something worth talking about inside the office, and
Yes.
then let's go out, and
Yeah.
work on that.
And if you're trying to find that time, look for like invisible leaks, like in your day or in your hour.
Okay.
I'm doing a series right now on my new Instagram page where we're taking the book Atomic Habits
Mm,
and breaking it down,
yeah.
Atomic Habits Dental Edition.
Oh, love it.
And I mean, if you look at the premise in that book, it talks about like if you change something like by 1%, in
Yeah.
a year, you're changing something by 37%. So it's not always as big as people think. Again, being productive does not always equal being busy. It's, that small daily progress to a goal. So if you can identify some leaks in your time, again, software, process, systems, handoffs of patients. I mean, there's all these little things that you can do, and just by shifting, let's say you got a half hour. I wrote this down, what you could do if you got a half hour, freed up an hour. You could do 5 patient reactivations, 10 community outreach calls, one meaningful team training. It all adds up super fast.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
my first step would be to identify where those leaks and gaps are. So, I want to make sure people leave today knowing like there's ways to evaluate
Yeah.
looking for the time that we're trying to get them back. Because it sounds to me like you and I are both thinking we're inside out marketers for sure. So the inside out is your house in order, right? So here we are. We have a great practice. We have a great team. Why do we feel so busy? Why don't we have time for marketing? We want more new patients. What does that look like? And I think if you kind of stop there and evaluate internally there as well, looking for that extra time, and then maybe even schedule it. If
Yeah.
you have a person that's identified as being responsible for your marketing, make sure that there's an interaction and connection between what the dentist's expectation is of the practice and marketing and what the front team or whoever's responsible for the marketing. Smart practices outsource
Mhm.
those types of things for the most part. And, I think when you're small and struggling or you're starting, it's okay to do a lot of these simple things yourself.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, as you get bigger and busier, there's always that piece where you can outsource and automate some of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is, to be totally candid, that's one of our uh, pitches, when we talk to dentists is, hey, we can help you reclaim back a lot of that time, that you're
Yeah.
spent marketing or trying to market or even thinking about it or worrying about it. And we can, yeah, allow you to do so many other things with that time. And I think that is a great, what an asset, to free
Yeah.
up. So yeah. So I love what you said too. Let me just add this. I was thinking about what you said about process and processes. That's something that has really allowed me to free up a lot of my time as I've started to build a team and add employees and just having a process to hand over to them. Yeah, it
Mhm.
takes time to create it and fine tune it, but
Sure.
once you hand that over, the thought is, I don't ever have to do that again personally, which is so liberating. And this same
Right.
thing happened actually in my yard too when I was digging out this section because we had put a patio pavers and we had built a pergola and stuff like that. But I was so excited because once I was done, the whole time I was digging it out and getting rid of all the weeds. I was like, this place will never have weeds again. Like I'll never have to do any weeding over here again. And that thought sustained me for hours. And it was so, and that's the same thing with your practice, it's just I like you said, Lori, identifying those things that are I mean, I loved what you said too. If you delegate the teachable, if that you can delegate to those team members, you have a process that you hand them, and then you can talk it through and work it through. But then, yeah, you just kind of let them take the baton from there. And
Yeah.
there's going to be coaching and there's stuff that will happen after too. It's not going to be perfect from the get-go, but it does really open up that time.
Yeah. I've got my little thing in my head just said, say this because a lot of people need to hear this. So let me say something really quick about practices and doctors not being able to talk about themselves like we were
Yeah.
mentioning. I think I think the thing that team members can help their doctors the most with is if you know that your doctor isn't good about saying, "Hey, look at me, I'm all out in a bag of chips," right?
Mhm.
If your team believes in you, they should be able to articulate that better than you can.
Mm.
So I'm
Yeah.
sure in your process, when you're working with practices and they're deciding to outsource their marketing and you're coming up with a strategy for them, I would always interview the team first and find those people that are evangels and believe in the dentist more than they do themselves because they're
Yeah.
always going to tell you the things about the dentist that make their experience of a patient unique.
Yeah.
So if you rely on the dentist for that, if the dentist says, "Yeah, I got to outsource my marketing, we don't have time to do this," you're not going to get very far if you don't get to the heart of why patients are coming there to begin with. So I just think it's important as we're trying to find time to do all these things, whether you do it internally or rely on somebody like you to help with it externally, both are fair and good options. I think the hardest thing is, what can you say about yourself that you really can stand behind?
Mm.
Because there's no time in the world that's going to find that. You have to find that, with that connection.
Yeah. And I love that. It's a great place to start, with the team. They're the ones that are getting a lot of the feedback too from patients. And so it's reinforcing,
Yep.
yeah, their own beliefs and stuff like that. I think that's awesome. That's
Let's
awesome.
let's face it, there are so many marketing companies that come in and go, "We're going to send you 12 templates that you can use every month
Yeah.
to post on it." And look, for some people, let's say the doors are blown off and they've got more patients than they can stand. Great.
Hmm.
Post something on social once a month, do your diligence, that's
Yeah.
fine. Let's face it, not everybody's like that.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
for those people that are trying to grow their practices, I would much rather see a social post about, what soccer team you promoted or what, a high five from a kid who just got their braces off,
Yeah.
depending on the situation. I'd rather see something real than something somebody got out of a template.
Yeah.
So, and that's not always easy to do. And those are the types of things in marketing that I think people have to find time for.
Yeah.
Those are the culture conversations internally that you have to have with your team where you say, "Okay, let's take the time to really decide what makes us tick. What are
Hmm.
we really good at?"
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And I think getting the team involved, if you can, yeah, if you can carve out some additional time or reclaim some additional time, and then get the team involved to come up with these ideas and start engineering a different process, a kind of a dream come true scenario type, Disney type process. I think that's where it gets really exciting. At the outset of our interview, we talked about how get those people that get so excited, those team members that really get behind the vision,
Yeah,
and that's so imperative, I mean, they're not going to do their best work unless they believe in what they're doing. And if you can get them to really clue into what we're trying to build, then they're going to be the ones that ideate, that bring these things to the table that we could have
sure.
never thought of ourselves, because they're in
Right.
that unique position where they see those patients in that setting every single
Hmm.
day, which we might not see or might never see, and
Right.
so it's so cool. And we've been talking with a couple of practices. We put together a program to help to proactively orchestrate more referrals, and it deals with, okay, here's some things that we can do. And we mentioned a couple of them, just reaching out and recognizing people when they
Hmm.
send a referral. I mean, as simple as that. But there's some other things too where you engineer these referable moments, essentially in
Hmm.
the practice where they come in and you go out of your way intentionally to go
Yeah.
above and beyond so that they have a unique experience. And
Yeah.
I'll share a quick example when I started a company right out of college. I did photography and I got really excited about referrals, and this idea kind of, you know, was born in me, I guess, or someone shared it, I think, and I really took root. But the idea is of you can proactively generate referrals. You don't have to just sit passively and hope that they will come. And so I remember just when I was working with clients, kind of on the intake process, I would ask them about their favorite, uh, just a few random questions that they seemingly random questions at the end. What's your favorite snack or treat or whatever? And then uh, what's your favorite color or something like that. But and then when I was done with the photos and I'd send it to them, I'd include that in there. And more often than not, they would say something like, how in the world did you know that that was my favorite snack? Even though I asked them outright what it was in the first,
Right.
they were so blown away. And it's like these little tiny things that
Yeah.
really don't cost you all that much,
I'm
but
writing that down. What is your
so
favorite
cool.
snack?
Yeah. And it's just exceeding those expectations,
Yeah.
strategically so that they are more likely to refer, and
Yeah.
especially in dental, like it doesn't take that much because it is a rough experience for a lot of people to come into practice. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's a great place to spend your time that you've reclaimed by
Mhm.
outsourcing or delegating or automating some of these things.
Mhm. Yeah. All my years of dentistry and I'll be self-serving for a half a second, until I went to work for MaxAssist, I really didn't understand how much time was wasted on ignorant automation is the only way I could, come up with a good way of saying it. I mean, there's so many things that we do still manually or count on our
Okay.
PMS systems to do.
Yeah.
And I think, drinking through the fire hose at this moment when we're talking, I've been at my new job for 22 days.
Mhm. Yep.
And some of those are weekends, so we can't even count those.
Yeah.
But I've learned a couple things, and let me just speak from the heart of a marketer like we have been. Um, we think there's a lot of practices that think new patients, new patients, new patients, new patients, right?
Yeah.
And for some, that's true. That's what's needed. But my new boss, our CFO, has really shown me that it's a balance. It's a balance between cultivating your existing patients and the things that are like sitting on the table that you have that you could be turning into revenue, or you could be hiring more people, hiring
Yeah.
associates, doing the things and new patients. So it's a balance. So as a good marketer, I used to want to say all the time, all you need is new patients, all you need is new patients, butts in chairs, the whole thing,
Right.
right? But what I'm learning over time as I age, is that everything is truly a balance. You have to have it all. You have to have the total team package. You have to have an eye on your unfinished treatment in your own practice because there's probably thousands of dollars on the table.
Tons.
And then you also want to get to a point where you're covering all those things so then you can go after new patients
Mhm.
and you can fill more chair time and more hours. So it's a delicate balance of all of those things, and I'm learning it slowly but
Yeah.
surely.
Yeah, well, it's true, and it's so exciting to focus exclusively on new patient generation, where you're just, oh, we generated 15 calls today, and that is exciting. It's not as exciting typically for most people to reactivate a patient that hasn't been coming, but
Right?
which one's the easier of the two, and which one typically is worth more of the two, and
Yeah.
you look at all the numbers and it is like you're saying, it's just there's so much there already in the patient base,
Hmm.
that you can work with and you already have that relationship. You've done all the hardest work
Right. This
already.
isn't low hanging fruit. This is the fruit.
Yeah, I
Right?
know.
This is the fruit. We
Yeah,
want the pie, we want the cherry on the top with
yeah,
the new patients. I mean, it's like I said, three-legged stool. It's got to be a balance. And,
yeah,
to focus on one area more than another, that's why I'm learning that the proper software and systems in a practice make the difference there because
yeah,
one frees you up to work on the next. So I just think it's important that, to finding that time means really looking at, like I said before, where are the leaks? Where are there areas where we're not as strong? And where are the areas where we're super strong and really
yeah.
focusing on those things? So yeah, I think if we could figure out how to hand offices another half hour to hour in their day, you and I probably could retire and drink margaritas in your backyard with your new pavered patio. Hey, I have a quick patio story. Are you up for
Yeah,
one?
let's hear it.
So I saw this beautiful pavered patio. My husband and I were living in Sacramento at the time, and I loved it. And it had these little like grass in between the pavers. It was so beautiful. It looked
Oh,
very Italian chic, right?
yeah.
Till I realized that my husband and I were going to have to purchase sod and cut those pieces by
Oh.
hand to put them in between the pavers, which we did. Asked me if I was a dentist if I could have seen patients for the next 2 weeks because I was crippled up, from sawing that sod. So I get it. And was there a tool that could have made it easier for me? I don't think so in that case. I
Yeah.
think I think I was an all by hand endeavor, but gosh, was it beautiful when it was done.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
usually how it is in the end, those things that take a long time, they usually are worth it for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, Mark, what you and I are both saying is, as a dentist, what kind of legacy do you want?
Mhm.
What do you want to leave? Do you want to be the dentist that everybody refers to because you're just a great clinician, a great human, and they just feel as comfortable as they possibly can when they come to you? That marketing is going to help on its own. Then outsourcing and working with somebody like you, then tenfolds that. Now you can build in great associates and hire more hygienists and hire more team and maybe another location or two. You have to decide what kind of a legacy dentist you want to be and what
Yeah.
that looks like for you. And I think once more dentists believe in themselves and can articulate what they're really good at and show that to their teams, some of the marketing, not all of it, but some will happen organically and they won't have to work as hard.
Yeah, absolutely. So question two, going back just to make sure everyone has something to walk away with too in terms of action items for if you're looking at your practice or your team for those leaks, where would you suggest you would start? Do you just kind of walk through operationally or where would you recommend someone to start that process?
Well, I have some self-serving answers that I won't give because, of course, the company that I work for does a lot of that,
Okay.
when it terms
Yeah.
in terms of ramping up your PMS. But I think overall, if you look at your practice holistically and say, okay, front, back, dentist, right?
Yeah.
Everybody should be looking at, are there things that we're doing in our day that feel really manual? Like, is there a flow with patients coming back from the front to the back? Where is the stop gap?
Mhm.
Again, back to that atomic habits. If there's one or two little tweaks we can make, it's kind of, I don't know if you've ever done this, but it's like one of those things where you go, why didn't I change that 20 years ago? Why
Mhm.
didn't I rent that skid steer?
Right.
So every practice is going to be a little bit different, but I would start looking at your systems and processes for front and back office, patient handoff, maybe how you're doing your marketing now. What are all those things that you like? I would almost make kind of like a wheel or like a circle. I'd say, okay, there's patient care, there's insurance, there's
Yeah.
how do we separate the things that we do? And then once we do that, are there any areas in which we can systemize or work on that would save us time?
Yeah.
And think of it like a dental pizza.
Hmm.
Let's move all the pepperonis over to this side so we can have more. I don't know, it depends on kind of pizza you like, but you
Yeah.
know what I mean. I'm
Absolutely.
I'm trying to look at an efficient way to not manage and lead from burnout.
Right.
And that's the hard thing.
Yeah.
And part of the reason I came up with maxed in, maxed out is because, you don't want to feel so maxed out and burned out that you can't lead and you can't help. No matter what role you are in the practice, you want to feel maxed in, right? Because maxed in means I'm looking at all these things and I'm not going, oh, it's so heavy. Oh, I have to carry it all. It's okay. This is my job. This is what I do from this time to this time. How can I maximize efficiency while I'm here and show my team that I just saved everybody a half hour a day?
Yeah.
And what are we going to do with that time? Right. So, one of the things that I'm sure you do, I would be asking potential marketing clients is how much time do you spend right now on marketing your practice?
Hmm.
Now, you and I both know, and it's probably a part four, Mark,
Yeah.
that there's a difference between brand and marketing, right?
Yeah.
So who are you? What do you do different? And it's really important that practices understand where they are in the process, what their goals are, and which type of marketing they need.
Yeah.
So identifying those things, I think, will help then you work backwards to find those gaps. So although I can't wave a magic wand and give them the time, I think there's some simple steps I would take if it were me to try to find it. I would be monitoring like kind of what I'm doing all throughout the day individually and saying, can I delegate? Can I move anything to another person? Can I automate something? Is there something here that I'm missing?
Yeah.
So something as simple as, and again, self-serving, like when a call comes in and we have like a call pop that pops up all the patient information, but in our software, it has tons of information about the patient's family, and the whole thing. If you have to get the call and go into your PMS and find all those things, minutes, 3, 4, 5 minutes. But every time the patient calls, if you have to do that,
Hmm.
that's time you could have back. So
Yeah.
that's just a small example of an efficiency that could change if you looked at something that was a little bit more automated or suited towards saving time.
Yeah.
So I think nowadays serving people well means we're not only helping them, but we're listening and focused in on what they need. Because how many times are we just trying to answer the phone to get the person off the phone?
Hmm.
Or we don't even want to pick up the phone anymore. So we're
Yeah.
using some voice that says, "Hi, this is Lorie from Dr. Smith's office. I'm so glad you called. Can we give you a new patient appointment?" And they're like, "My tooth hurts." And you're like, "I'm sorry, I don't understand that. Press 5."
Yeah.
I don't want to see that in dentistry. I really want to see the human connection, which leads to, us always maintaining the relationship that it means to keep a patient for the lifetime.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better. And I think that's, yeah, really what we're getting at is just making that a better process for everyone, patient included,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I would echo what you just said, Lori, in terms of have each team member kind of go through that and see, okay, evaluate their daily routine and just see,
Yep.
okay, what are areas that I feel like are where there's friction, where I feel like this is
Mhm.
just a little off, it's a little uncomfortable or whatever. Or like you said, this is something that we could automate,
Mhm.
honestly,
Right.
or something that
Yep.
could be delegated to someone else. And there's going to
Or
be
outsourced. Yeah.
or outsourced. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yep.
there will be some that you just can't do that. They just don't, there's just not a thing. But to go through that process with each team
Mhm.
member and have them, and I think what's neat about that too is that it encourages them to think like an owner, where they're thinking as how can I make this practice better?
Right.
Instead of just how much time do I have left on my shift today? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And that's a totally different mindset. But well, Lori, I'm so excited that you got to come back. We're excited for part 4 to be determined at some point. Really excited about that. But why don't you take a few minutes now and put on your Max Assist hat on and tell us a little bit about Max Assist. I mean, it's a resource. It could be a good fit for a lot of people that are listening right now.
Well, taking a juxtaposition that I am only a month into my job, but the things that I've learned so far about Max Assist are that it is built to simplify and enhance recall. And it's so amazing that it started there. But now with this new AI toolbar that we have, it's just, I go on to a demo because, of course, I've been demoed to death, right?
Yeah.
So I've got to see it all the time. And I keep telling my friends that are in dentistry, I'm like, I don't know where this software has been. Like, where are they?
Yeah.
So Max Assist, they're the leaders in Canada. So if you think of they're a Canadian born company. I got to go to Calgary and meet the whole entire team. They're all amazing. They have a US location as well. And my job was literally to march them across the US. Like I want people to know who they are because
Yeah.
frankly, they're the best kept secret. So my favorite things on demos have been you open up your software and they have no hostile integration. So all their integrations are super smooth. Their toolbar just kindly pops up over the top of the PMS. It's real slender. And right away, you go in, there's an AI assistant component now where basically I'm kind of a list maker. I can go in and see what I need to do throughout the day, who didn't respond, who didn't do paperwork, where the missed opportunities are. There's all kinds of analytics about how to fill chairs. It really has features that no other software has. It does all the other things that everybody else does, but it has so many little hidden nuances. So I've been inviting my closest friends and people in the industry that really talk to other office managers and said, just look at it. Tell me if there's something wrong. What am I missing? And everybody leaves going, why doesn't everybody know about this?
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that and just say, from an efficiency standpoint, without having to sound too self-serving, I would definitely take a look at it if you're trying to fill hygiene chairs, if you're trying to build your practice, if you're looking for that treatment that's been diagnosed and you want a simple way for your team to be able to track that and fill those holes, it does that.
Mhm.
And I think that the biggest thing is, that mentality that all these softwares have of set it and forget it, and it automates and does all these things. That's not who MaxAssist is. MaxAssist is basically like having an extra set of hands up front, which as a practice administrator, I would have been like, there's my time, there's my
Yeah.
efficiency right there. So
Right.
I think as I get to learn it more and, I go through 700 more demos, maybe on part 4, I'll tell you even more.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing is anytime you're looking to level up your game, and one of it needs to be through being more efficient, you want something that's going to assist and help you grow. There's a dashboard at the back of the software that an office manager would have access to, where they actually get to see the progress of each team member up front, who they've called, what they've done. It's all scored. It's really amazing.
That's
So
cool.
I think for me, to be honest with you, helped build the community, been there, checkbox, that's done. Now I wanted a way to come into the practice, and I feel like I'm with the right company that can do that and make a huge difference so that marketers like you can slide in and say, let me help you with all those new patients that you can now manage better.
Yes. I love that.
Awesome.
That is awesome, Lori. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. If people want to get in touch with you, what is the best
Mhm.
way to do that?
So a couple ways. I have, and I'll give you a link for people if they want to take a demo. And I'm actually been
Great.
hanging out on them, so they get to like see me lurking over their
Yeah.
demo and like, ooh, let me see what you're doing. So I have a demo link for you. They can follow me on Instagram, Lorie Streeter Maxed Out. I also, believe it or not, have a TikTok page. It's been so much fun. So Lorie Streeter Maxed Out on TikTok as well. That's got a little bit more lifestyle and fun stuff on it. But yeah, it's just Lorie Streeter Maxed Out. And my goal at this point is just to help people feel kind of maxed into their potential and their practice growth and how they go about their lives. Because at the end of the day, we want everybody to have more time.
Yes. Amen to that. I could use
Yes,
a lot
sir.
more.
Yes, sir.
Well, thanks again, Lori, and we will have you back soon.
Awesome. I would love to come back.